But before Caitlin Clark's season-ending injury, WNBA tickets were averaging $89. The moment she went down, price crashed nearly 30%, plummeting to $62 a seat. That's kind of crazy. And there's a lot of reasons for this, but obviously the biggest reason is...
Okay, get this. The WNBA, it's literally staring down a total ratings and financial apocalypse right now. I mean, Commissioner Kathy Engelbert is watching what was supposed to be the league's big moment just poof, vanish into a devastating nightmare faster than a balloon deflates.
WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. I can tell you, from the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff. Views on this channel, the television ratings, the interest, Thanos snapped out of existence. People were trying to hang on to the possibility this whole time. Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the cavalry...
And here's the plot twist. This whole catastrophe, it all stems from the Indiana Fever's official announcement that their superstar Caitlin Clark isn't coming back for the rest of the 2025 season. Suddenly, the WNBA is facing this brutal, harsh reality. Without their golden goose, this whole operation is just an expensive sideshow that nobody actually wants to watch.
Late July, the WNBA proudly flaunted ratings for the All-Star Game, which drew 2.2 million viewers. Of course, they conveniently failed to mention that ratings were down 36% from the record ratings that Caitlin Clark pulled the year before. Early August, ESPN pointed out that the Seattle Spankers and the Indiana Felines, without Caitlin Clark, drew 1.6 million on ABC. ESPN claimed that WNBA ratings were up 20% over last year, mostly without Caitlin Clark playing. But over the last 3 or 4 weeks, both the WNBA and the media have been strangely silent. I wonder...
Now, the numbers that came out right after Clark's season-ending announcement, they're not just bad, they are catastrophic for the league's bottom line. We're talking WNBA playoff game ticket prices plummeting by an average of 30% overnight. Seriously, some games that were over $200 are now barely hitting $25. Can you believe that?
The WNBA are currently treading dangerous waters. It's sharks out there, y'all. It is sharks out there in the deep ends of that water. Reality is hitting, and the playoffs have the potential to expose even more. Ratings could potentially crash in this year's WNBA playoffs without Caitlin Clark. Networks have their eyes peeled to what is going on, and ticket prices plummeted 30% while Caitlin Clark was out with her.
And get this, it hits even harder for the Indiana Fever themselves. They were commanding premium ticket prices all season, right? But the moment Clark got injured, their road game prices cratered by a whopping 71%, dropping from an average of $137 to just $80. This isn't just a minor dip, folks. This is a total market collapse, laying bare just how utterly dependent this entire league is on one single player.
And again, she's only on one team. But a very big chunk of the total attendance in WNBA is from the Indiana Fever. They have the second highest home attendance, and teams are literally moving arenas. So yeah, a lot of teams, whether it be the Lynx opening the Upper Bowl, whether it be the Wings, the Dream, the Sky, all of these teams moving games. All of these teams are moving games for the Indiana Fever, regardless of who it is. They all have to sell those seats. And a lot of people don't want to go, and it's super cheap. Like, it's a lot easier to fill a 10,000 seat arena without Caitlin Clark than to fill 20,000. So you're going to have to find a way to do it anyway, which is what a lot of people are going to be doing, trying to sell tickets.
So, the 2025 WNBA season, It was supposed to be their crowning achievement, breaking attendance records, raking in unprecedented revenue. But instead, what we're witnessing is a masterclass in how fast artificial success can just poof, disappear when it's built on such a fragile foundation. Clark, who had literally never missed a game in college or her rookie WNBA season, only played a measly 13 games in 2025 because of a string of brutal injuries. Without her magnetic presence, the league that swore it had finally arrived is now rapidly spiraling back to its natural state of irrelevance, and believe me, the financial data proves this beyond any shadow of a doubt.
The WNBA playoffs begin on Sunday. Have you noticed that no one is talking about it? This time last year, the WNBA was dominating talk shows on ESPN and FS1. Content creators on YouTube were flooding the platform with WNBA videos. This year, it's complete silence. Obviously, ratings for the playoffs are going to be a flaming ass fire. But if I'm the WNBA, I am concerned about...
Hey, if you're finding this interesting, please hit that subscribe button. Now here's what's even more damaging about this whole crisis. It's not just the money they're losing right now. It's the complete evaporation of sports media interest in the WNBA. Think about it. Major networks and commentators, who were treating the league like it was absolutely essential content, are now cooling off faster than ice cream in a freezer. The very same personalities who shouted about the WNBA's breakthrough moment are quietly slinking back to covering more profitable sports, leaving the league in a desperate scramble for relevance, without their one true biggest storyline. You see, sports media outlets that were dedicating massive amounts of coverage to the WNBA during Clark's meteoric rise are suddenly slashing their WNBA segments, with some networks reportedly even yanking WNBA content entirely from prime programming slots. The brutal truth is this: sports media chases ratings and fan engagement, and without Clark generating those headlines and viral moments, the WNBA has completely lost its hook for mainstream audiences. Even ESPN, who poured massive investments into WNBA coverage when Clark was around, now has to face the incredibly uncomfortable truth that their entire programming strategy was dependent on one player's star power. What a mess, right?
We talked about Jason Whitlock disowning the WNBA. True to his word, hasn't spoken a lick about the WNBA since. Colin Cowherd trashing the WNBA. It's Caitlin Clark and only Caitlin Clark. Last year, he used to lead shows talking Caitlin Clark, talking WNBA. This year, with her injury, didn't even bother wasting more than 10 minutes talking about the WNBA this year. No Shanae, no Elle Duncan, no Monica McNutt, none of those appear.
But perhaps the most telling sign of the league's sheer desperation, it's how their viewership numbers have utterly collapsed the second Clark stepped off the court. We're talking games that used to pull in over 1.8 million viewers, with Clark now struggling to hit even 200,000. That's a staggering 89% decline, showing just how ridiculously inflated the league's popularity truly was. And get this: even those matchups between rivals like the Chicago Sky and Indiana Fever, which used to ignite massive ratings battles between Clark and Angel Reese, are now drawing audiences so pathetically small that networks are actually embarrassed to even release the viewership data. Think about that for a second.
Ratings for nationally televised games have mysteriously disappeared. I knew the WNBA lived in a world of make-believe, but I never realized they were magicians. It seems when ratings fail to meet expectations, the WNBA makes ratings disappear faster than pants at the Butt Bongo Festival. Sports Media Watch, which is the go-to source for sports ratings, Sports Media Watch, they have not updated WNBA ratings since August 20.
Now, this ticket price collapse isn't just affecting Indiana Fever games. Oh no! We're seeing WNBA playoff contests across the entire league experiencing dramatic price drops because fans are finally realizing that without Clark, the product just isn't compelling enough to justify those premium prices. Games that were selling for $200 during the absolute peak of Clark Mania are now available for a measly $25, and even at those rock bottom prices, arenas are struggling, seriously, struggling to fill seats. This is a fundamental seismic shift in market demand that could torpedo the league's entire business model going forward. But here's the most infuriating part of this whole mess. It was all so preventable. Clark's season-ending injury didn't just happen out of nowhere. It was a direct result of a league that utterly failed to protect its single most valuable asset, while simultaneously allowing a culture of excessive physicality to not just exist, but practically flourish around her. From those quad injuries back in May to multiple groin injuries throughout the summer, Clark's body broke down under this relentless physical targeting that the WNBA didn't just allow, but honestly seemed to encourage. The league that should have been building ironclad protective systems around their golden ticket instead just stood by passively, watching their entire financial future get systematically destroyed by unbelievably poor officiating and completely inadequate player protection protocol. It's absolutely mind-boggling.
Now, you know, them Caitlin Clark tickets was hard to get your hands on. It don't matter if she was playing in LA, Indiana, Atlanta, Seattle. It did not matter. Afghanistan. It didn't matter. It was hard to get your hands on a Caitlin Clark ticket. Y'all see how many people showed up in Iowa? They could have filled up a football stadium. A football stadium. Super Bowl. Yeah, that is.
And you know what else? The demand for relevance? It's playing out exactly as all the critics had warned it would. The league's desperate attempts to cook up alternative storylines and push other players in Clark's absence have fallen completely, totally flat with audiences. Despite all their efforts to promote different team matchups and create these compelling narratives, the viewership data screams the truth. Fans are simply not interested in the WNBA without Caitlin Clark. This isn't just some temporary dip while people adjust. This is a fundamental, outright rejection of the product when it's stripped of its primary attraction. The harsh, cold mathematical reality is that the WNBA without Clark is generating the exact same level of fan interest it did before she arrived, which, let's be honest, was virtually none. And the financial fallout, it goes way, way beyond just ticket sales and TV rating. Merchandise sales, which absolutely exploded by over 500% during Clark's rookie season, are now staring down severe declines as retailers can't move WNBA products without that Clark effect, driving demand. Plus, big-name sponsors who poured serious money into WNBA partnerships based on those unprecedented growth metrics are now reassessing their entire commitments because they know their investment was explicitly tied to one player's star power, not any kind of sustainable, league-wide interest. Ouch.
Other than a Nike commercial, other than a Gatorade commercial, how many commercials have you seen of companies putting WNBA players as the face of their commercial? I can't think of one. The only commercial that comes to mind is the Paige Becker's Coach commercial, and they don't even put that on television. That seems to be strictly a League Pass commercial that they show us while we're watching WNBA on League Pass. Other than that, has there been any State Farm commercials not featuring Caitlin Clark that you've seen throughout this season?
But the most devastating revelation of all, it's just how lightning fast the entire sports world has moved on from the WNBA. The second Clark stopped generating those daily headlines, social media engagement, it has plummeted. Sports talk shows have slashed their WNBA coverage, and those casual fans, the ones who were initially drawn to the league by Clark's undeniable, magnetic personality, have already totally redirected their attention to other sports. This isn't just a temporary setback, folks. This is a complete, undeniable reversal of all the momentum the league thought it had built over the past 2 years. What we're witnessing right now is the total exposure of the WNBA's fundamental deep-seated business model flaw. The league that was just celebrating record-breaking attendance and these unprecedented television deals is now confronting the brutal reality that their entire growth story was absolutely dependent on one player's individual appeal, not any genuine sustainable interest in women's basketball itself. Without Clark, the league's metrics are crashing right back to their historical norms. Low viewership, minimal media coverage, and the same old struggles to fill arenas, even with heavily discounted ticket prices. It's a stark reminder.
The whole sports media is upset at the WNBA for what they've been doing to Caitlin Clark. You hear me? Depriving everybody from enjoying the game of basketball. You hear me? She put women basketball back on the map. Yes, the WNBA has been irrelevant. And I'm glad everybody is speaking up. Colin Cowherd, Jason Whitlock, Stephen A. Smith, Skip Bayless. Yeah, everybody upset. Bruh, like, these women, they so petty, bruh, and they don't even care, dog. They don't mind hurting themselves just to hurt you, bruh.
Now the playoff implications. Those are probably the most devastating part of this entire crisis. The WNBA playoffs, which are supposed to be the league's absolute premier showcase event, are now heading into their most crucial stretch without their biggest draw. Seriously, television executives who were banking on Clark-driven ratings to justify all their programming investments are now staring down the very real prospect of playoff games that will struggle to even hit 500,000 viewers. And this creates a brutal cascade effect. Plummeting viewership means decreased advertising revenue, which ultimately hammers the league's ability to maintain the very salary structures and operational expenses that players have been demanding. But here's the kicker. The most telling part of this whole catastrophe is how it completely validates every single criticism that skeptics had thrown at the WNBA's breakthrough moment. Those critics who argued that the league's growth was artificially hooked on one player's star power, instead of any genuine sustained interest in the product itself. They've been proven absolutely unequivocally correct. The market has spoken with brutal, undeniable clarity. WNBA basketball without Caitlin Clark is a product that most consumers simply do not want to purchase, and it doesn't matter how aggressively they try to market it, period.
Fans shared similar reactions to the drastic change in ticket prices following Clark's injury. Because it's unwatchable without her, someone else added, did her injury deflate ticket prices or just prove she's the entire league's economy? Another person wrote, honestly, I'm surprised it isn't more than that. I would have guessed 50%. No matter what you think about Clark, she brings people to watch. We're lucky to be able to see her. I hope she comes back strong. You don't have to like her, but she is the headline and puts butts in this.
Okay, so Commissioner Engelbert's legacy? It's going to be absolutely defined by just how catastrophically she mismanaged the league's single most valuable asset. Instead of actually building protective systems around Clark and creating an environment where the league's biggest star could truly thrive, Engelbert presided over a system that actively allowed excessive physicality to flourish, all while completely failing to adequately protect the very player responsible for the league's entire financial resurgence. The tragic result? A season-ending injury to the one person whose presence literally made the difference between relevance and total irrelevance for the entire league. The WNBA's current crisis is honestly a brutal case study in how quickly artificial success can just evaporate when it's built on these incredibly unsustainable foundations. The league that was out there proclaiming its big arrival as a mainstream entertainment option is now desperately scrambling to maintain even basic audience interest without its primary attraction. Ticket prices are in free fall, television ratings are approaching historical lows, and sports media coverage is shrinking faster than you can blink. All because the league failed, absolutely failed, to protect the one asset that made all their recent success even remotely possible.
I will never understand why anyone in the WNBA picks on Caitlin Clark. I mean, I think we're kind of over that phase. I think people just know she is that person for the league, but she is literally the reason they're flying planes, charter planes to games. Like, she is the reason that they're on ESPN consistently. They're not on ION all the time. They're on ESPN, especially once the NBA playoffs end. They're on ESPN all the time. Like, that was not the case before Caitlin Clark arrived. And it still puzzles me that like one player transformed the league and like she was the chosen one. We've talked about that all the time here. But the bottom line is she legitimately is.
Alright, so the harsh, undeniable mathematical reality staring the WNBA right in the face is this. Without Caitlin Clark, they are absolutely, unbelievably careening back to their pre-2024 state of irrelevance at a speed that even the most pessimistic critics didn't see coming. Ticket prices have completely collapsed, ratings have evaporated into thin air, and media interest has cooled off so dramatically that some networks are now seriously questioning whether they should even keep investing in WNBA WNBA programming at all. The league that genuinely believed it had finally arrived is now learning the brutal, painful lesson that sustainable success demands more than just one transcendent individual. Without that individual, they're right back to square one, struggling for relevance in a crowded sports landscape that frankly has already moved on to far more compelling entertainment options. The message here is devastatingly clear. The WNBA without Caitlin Clark is exactly what it was before Caitlin Clark, a niche product that most sports fans simply ignore. The ratings don't lie, the attendance figures don't lie, and those ticket prices certainly don't lie. Caitlin Clark was the WNBA's entire business model, and her absence has brutally exposed just how hollow and fleeting their supposed growth truly was. Until she returns, folks, this league is going to continue its rapid, sad descent back into the sports entertainment obscurity where it comfortably spent most of its 28-year existence. And that, my friends, is the bottom line.